हरिओम प्रभु जी।
ओम श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Once questions of the type we were discussing yesterday arise in the mind, and we are able to determine that the only way I can find answers to this question through our own efforts, through our own efforts at vichara, analysis, that the only place where we're going to find the answers is in the Vedas. And this is done absolutely logically. Why not in any other place? So on. Once we reach that state, then Shraddha develops. It is probably the most critical understanding at the early stages. Shraddha means it is neither accepting simply because it is there and somebody is saying this is the way it is, nor is it rejecting that because I have a completely different point of view which I have developed based on my own assumptions. At that stage, I never discard whatever I have assumed. I keep it with me. I say, let me examine what Shastra has to say, because I have logically arrived at the fact that that is where the answer is going to be. Similarly, typically, everybody goes, when they go searching for the answer, they find, okay, so-and-so has a large following. He has a great reputation. Let me see what he says and see if that appeals to me, that makes me understand the reality. So I go to somebody, listen to him. Perhaps these days we do it all electronically. But normally what one would do is one would go to that guru, spend time with that guru. I've done that myself. And see if it reverberates. See if, say, that's where the answer is coming. Even though the answer has not yet come, I'm saying, oh, that's where the answer is likely to come. But till that happens, one keeps trying. So you have Shraddha in the Shastra, and once one has found a guru whose who raises this apeksha that this is where I'm going to find the answers. You have Shraddha in the Guru also. I remember in the early days, when I was with my Guru, sometime I had, like all of us, I had this notion that every religion is the same. All religions had Shraddha in the Guru. I said, let me continue to hear. Maybe I will understand the difference that there. Not only in the reconciliation of the difference between my assumption about myself, but also about many other things. So that process starts. Therefore, I have to go to the Guru with an attitude which says, I want to know, I think you will be the source where I will understand. In the traditional learning, which we are today not able to do, but one might to go to a Gurukulam, which is typically in the forest somewhere, and the Guru will typically be living in a simple kutia. One goes and lives with the Guru. To go to that Guru, before Guru accepts you as a student, there are a lot of processes. I go to the Guru with Samitpani. Gurumeva abhigachet Samitpani. In those days, every Gurukulam had a perpetual fire lit. That fire never went out, symbolizing life. In fact, every grahastha is supposed to light such a fire in this graham. When a grahastha does the pujas and the yajnas that are prescribed for him, he lights a fire. And that fire is never allowed to go out. And the same fire is used eventually when that person goes to the cremation ground. Agnihotra is the ritual that they do every day. And it's the same fire. So the Gurukulam also has a fire running, symbolizing life. So when the potential Shishya goes to the Guru, hey Guru, teach me. He takes Samitpani. He gathers the Samit that is used in Yajnas and allows the fire to continue. That is why we have this very popular mantra which we referred to yesterday. Parikshalokan karmichitan brahmanaha nirvedamaya takritat kritena. The one who has figured out that all that I do is not going to get me what I'm looking for. I have examined everything. How am I going to find this? It is akritat. It is not something which is going to gain by doing. Kritena. By doing, I'm not going to get there. So how do I find it? Today it says, Tad Vijnanatham Gurumeva Abhigachet. Gurumeva Abhigachet. Samitpanihi, with the Samit in his hand, Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Also defines what kind of Guru. So he goes to the Guru with Samitmani. And if you look at various Upanishads, Guru may or may not immediately teach. Arjuna asked Lord Krishna, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tam Prapannam. Please accept me as a Shishya and teach me. Then, immediately after that, Bhagavan probably waiting. When will he ask and when can I teach him? Because he was ripe. Like that, when the Shishya goes to the Guru and asks, in many of the Upanishads, the Guru tells him to continue to do seva. I have heard my own Guru tell people who come to him and saying, I want to know, and then describe what they do. Great bhakti. Every day they will do puja, they will have their own Ishta Devata. Swamiji tells them, please continue, you are doing wonderfully. There are, in Chandogya Upanishad, there are situations where the Shishya waited 30 years before finally the Guru took them as Shishyas and gave them the Upadesha. So this Guru Shishya and the Shraddha in the Guru, Shraddha in the Shastra, Vedas, become the first step in this learning process, in the sadhana. So one must then know what the Shastra says. How do you know what the Shastra says? Shastras are all in cryptic form. And Shastras contain, like we saw yesterday, one bulk portion called Karma Kanda, which talks about gaining whatever you need to gain here. Artha, Kama and Dharma. Dharma here meaning to do what you need to do in life to gain other lokas. After the fall of the body, my whole objective is to go to Svargaloka because what the Veda says. Veda says that is where there is no pain. Underlying objective remains unaltered. I want a situation where under no circumstances do I have pain. So all of them, prescriptions are given. You do this, you will get wealth. You do this, you will get putra. You do this, you will fulfill your karma. Elaborately given. In each of the four Vedas. These Vedas don't have any authorship. There is nobody who claiming, I wrote the Veda. Veda Vyasa, considered really the father of all the Vedas, not because he wrote the Vedas. It's called Veda Vyasa because he collated the Vedas and had four of his Shishyas divide them into four different Vedas. We know that. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, and Sama Veda. Each of these four had the same, more or less the same structure in the sense that you had a Karma Kanda, which is elaborate description of ways and means. It is a prescription for life, how one should live life. And a relatively small portion consisting of all the Upanishads called the Vedanta. And this is the same in all four. There are many Upanishads. We don't even know how many there were originally because much of them are not accessible. I'm told that several of these original manuscripts on palm leaves are now available in places like Germany. I've not seen them, but I'm told they're available. So somebody obviously saw the value of these and took them away. But of what is available in each of the four Vedas, we are going to be focusing on the Vedanta portion, the Upanishads. We have selected to do a detailed study of one of them. Of the known Vedas, I'm told there are 108 Vedas that are known as of today. It is very difficult to read the Vedas since I understood. Because there can be my own interpretation of what I think the Vedas say. Particularly the Vedanta portion of it, the Upanishads. Even though I may be a great scholar of Sanskrit, I may find it very, not just difficult, but I may apply my own thinking, and all human thinking has limitations. And therefore, I depend on an analysis done by somebody else. Immediately the question arises, would that somebody else also not have his own conclusions into that? Probably. But the reason I look for somebody to give you that interpretation is, such a person has already understood through his or her guru the meaning of everything that the Upanishads say. Not on his own, not on her own, but through the unfoldment of this by his or her guru. Now, Vedas tell you that once a person understands, there is no difference between that and Ishvara. Brahmavit, Brahmaiva bhavati. One who's understood this idea of Brahman, which is all there is, he is himself or herself Brahman. Our thinking gets limited because when I say he or she, we are limiting to a particular body structure. But hopefully, as we study more and more, slowly that will start getting eliminated. That individual I, backed by ahankara, I sense, will start to wither away. And the recognition that there is no individual I, when that arises, when one recognizes one as not the self that I have assumed myself to be, but the reality as explained in the Shastras and unfolded by the Guru. In the Chandogya Upanishad, there is a story, the 5th chapter. 5 Rishiputras. The names are also, all these Rishiputras there, the names are not all that easy. Prachin Sala, Satya Yajna, Indradyumna, Jana, and Budin. They are Rishiputras. They are already very knowledgeable people. They have perhaps studied all these Vedas. They were discussing among ourselves and could reconcile what they have understood. Each one had interpreted in his own way. So to try and understand, to try and arrive at what is the correct thing, they went to another rishi called Uddalaka. Uddalaka is very famous. In fact, Uddalaka appears in another portion of Kathopanishad as the Guru. But here, Uddalaka is shown as somebody who tells them, I know what you've come for, but I am not yet ready. They go to Uddalaka, in fact, it says so, Samit Panihi, with Samit in their hands, to keep the fire going, as tradition requires you to do. So they went to him and he said, I myself don't know yet. So let us go to one Raja in the nearby kingdom called Kekaya. Kekapa. The Raja Ashwapati is there. He will be able to tell us. So they go to Raja Ashwapati, who is doing some yajna. And he receives them warmly and tells them, please participate in the yajna. At the end of the yajna, I will ask, you can ask whatever you want. So at the end of the yajna, as is normal, he offers them wealth. In any yajna, all the panditas are offered dakshina. No yajna is complete without dakshina. And it's said the yajna phala will not take place without this dakshina. In fact, there are some rules also for the dakshina. When you have 5-6 ritvik come to do a puja, what should the main ritvik, who is more erudite than the others, how much he should get, how much others should get? There is some, even today that will happen. If you do a yajna in your home, you will have a chief priest and a few other priests with him to support him. And dakshinas are different. So he offers them wealth. And they then ask that this is our difficulty. Can you please help us reconcile this? So he says, he asks each one, what is your idea of Brahman? So Prachin Sala says, I see Brahman as Svarga. Limited understanding, clearly. Because Svarga Loka is also a limited Loka. Shastra says that Svarga Loka is a Loka where there is no pain. That means there's no old age, there's no physical pain, there's no emotional pain in Svarga Loka. But unlike heaven, Svarga Loka is also limited in time. One goes to Svarga Loka because one has earned certain punya during the lifetime, and therefore when the body falls, one goes to Svarga Loka or any other Loka for that matter, and enjoys the Loka not in the physical form that he was here on the earth. That physical form is gone, cremated or buried or whatever is done. But in a form appropriate for that Loka. But that punya with which he went there starts getting exhausted. When that is exhausted completely, and that may be a very long time. See, the time frame between the lokas are not the same. The time frame that we have here In fact, there's a whole scale. What is Brahmaji's day, which is several 100,000 years of our Earth day. Why? We also experience it, no? When we create a Swapna Prapancham, a dream world, look at the time. In the dream, you may have seen several days. But how does it correspond to the waking world time? Scientists have established that typically a dream lasts perhaps 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds. But in the dream world, the same 2.5 seconds in the waking world is maybe several days. So in these Jagat, various other lokas also, you may have different time frames. We don't know them. But therefore, we must say that a person spent perhaps many earth years there, but may have spent only a small time by that loka's time. And then that punya karma slowly gets exhausted as he or she enjoys the pleasures of that loka. And then when all the punya is gone, what happens? Shastra itself says, Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, Shine punye martyaloke vishanti. Re-enters martyaloka, the loka of the where death and birth are normal. So even though he said his idea of Brahman is Svargaloka. There are a lot of people like that. People who follow certain Vedic rituals and therefore live a life which is totally in keeping with Veda, with the simple objective that at the end of this life, I must go to one of those lokas. But this is a limited ambition. Just like it is no different from saying, my objective in life is to earn 100 crore rupees net worth. How is that any different from that? And then each of the others say that I look at Brahman as Akasha, as Vayu, as Agni, each of which is correct. So that King Ashwapati says, each one of you is right. But you have limited your understanding of what Vedas say based on your own perceptions. What Vedas tell you is Ekameva Advitiya Brahman. There is only one. There are no different Panchabhutas. There is no difference between anything else. So he says, you're all right. It shows that even those people who are probably very erudite themselves make their own errors. Even in something like, what is Brahman? And that is when they're looking at Brahman as an external vastu, an object. What Shastra tells us eventually is, you are that everything, that Brahman. Tattvamasi. You are that. And then we have all these questions saying, how can you say this? I am, in my analysis, a being within this Sharira. That means I'm putting a limit on myself. In every way, I'm limited. My understanding of that one is unlimited. Shastra says so. How can you say the two are the same? This is the analysis we try to do. It's an equation which is unbalanced, or it looks unbalanced. Tattvamasi is an equation where you have on one side what I think I am, a limited being, 5 feet 8 inches in height, weighing 70 kilos, subject to all the pains and aches and pleasures, subject to aging. And there you are saying is the same as Ishvara or Brahman, which is no limitation. Two sides apparently look very different. How can I then understand Tattvamasi? The whole analysis that we have to do is, how do I see the Tvam Pada? How do I see the Tat Pada, which is Ishvara? And how do I then reconcile the differences and understand what Shastra says, you and Tat are the same? This is the analysis. It is like telling a small child, A plus B whole squared is equal to A squared plus B squared plus 2AB. I will say, what are you talking about? Nothing is the same on the two sides. I have one bracketed entity here. I have 3 different entities there. How can they be the same? Or even simpler. You tell a child 11 minus 7 is equal to 1 plus 3. Not one term is the same between the two sides. How do you say they are the same? They look so different. But you can show step by step why they are the same. This apparently unbalanced equation is what we are trying to reconcile in studying the Upanishads. Of all the Upanishads that are accessible to us, and where, as I said, we have to depend on an analysis, a commentary done by somebody who has already understood, that each of these, the message is the same. Not the word meaning of the message, but the intent is the same. The intended meaning is unchanged in every Upanishad. We depend on somebody. And for us, fortunately, the biggest exponent of the Advaita Vedanta, one who is able to explain that in fairly simple terms, Bhagavad Pada Adi Shankara, is accessible to us, available to us, called the Bashyam, commentary. We will talk more about the idea of Bashyam later. He himself talked about it. But he has written Bashyam not for all the Upanishads, but 10 selected Upanishads out of the many that are available, taken from each of the 4 Vedas. He's also written Bashyam of the Bhagavad Gita. He's also written Bashyam about a very analytical text called Brahma Sutra. The 3 together, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra, are called Prasthanatraya. Study of any one of them gives you the same message. Study of any Upanishad, and if one understands, one doesn't really have to study anything more. So Shankaracharya has written Bashyam on 10 Upanishads. Isha Kena Katho Prashna Mundaka Mandukya Taitreya Chandogya and Brahadarnika. 10 Upanishads. I mean, we should be extremely grateful to him that in the short life that he lived, as you all know, he probably took Samadhi when he was about 32. In the process, he crisscrossed his country in his Vijay Yatra, I think twice. When you go to Badrinath, for example, it's not an easy, or Kedarnath, it's not an easy trek, despite all the facilities that are now available to us. Imagine 1,500, 1,600 or more years ago, when that place would be an absolute jungle. Not even a footpath, perhaps. How Shankaracharya and his Shishyas traversed, went up, located the space, saw the sanctity of that place. Even today, when you go to Badrinath and Kedarnath, you feel that there is something different. There is a divinity. Identified it, established the temple there, and came back. To imagine how we managed to do that is incredible. Today, we have a lot of difficulty going up and coming down. In fact, it is recommended that when you go to places like Kedarnath, you should walk up. Although helicopter service is available these days. Talking about possible, there are roads available, there are people selling food on the way, and you get so hungry because it is high, cold, they'll give you hot food. How did Shankaracharya manage? But within the time, he wrote so many bhashyams, so many prayer verses, so many prakarana granthas. Absolutely unbelievable. So he wrote these bhashyams for these 10 Upanishads. These Upanishads come, like I said, from different Vedas. Aitreya Upanishad, for example, comes from Rig Veda. That means at the end of the Rig Veda, there are several perhaps Upanishads. Aitreya is one of them. This particular Katha Upanishad and Taitreya Upanishad, they are from the Yajurveda. Now, Yajurveda has two shakas called Krishna Yajurveda and Shukla Yajurveda. Kathopanishad and Taitreya Upanishad come from Krishna Yajurveda. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Ishavasya Upanishad are from the Shukla Yajurveda. Very contrasting in one way, but very similar in another way. Ishavasya Upanishad is a very small Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is a huge, probably the largest Upanishad. Comes from Shukla Yajurveda. Chandogya and Kenopanishad come from Samaveda. And Mundaka, Mandukya and Prashna Upanishad come from Atharva Veda. So these various Upanishads come from different Vedas. But the message is the same. The message is the same And we all study Sanskrit because this Bhashyam Acharya has written in Sanskrit. So when we read his Bhashyam, some knowledge of Sanskrit is very useful. However, we will try and see that even people who have not studied Sanskritam, we will try and see that it becomes possible for them also to understand. Sanskritam is very, one people say, do you know Sanskritam? They say immediately, do you know the script, the lipi? But Sanskritam has no lipi. Sanskritam does not have any written this at all. Sanskritam is a language which is a spoken language. It's a oral language. All communication was oral. And because of that, you will find that Sanskritam is the only language in the world where there is 100% fidelity between what is spoken and what is written. Because written didn't even exist. No specific font, no specific writing style was developed for Sanskritam. But by the same logic, Sanskritam can be written in any language. Vedas can be written, Bhashyam can be written in any language. You can write Vedas in Russian. You can write Vedas in Tamil. You can write in any language. It doesn't matter. Because it is 100% phonetic. If you look at how languages themselves developed, they must have originally been only language would be what is seen in nature. In fact, there are some very interesting names for the theory of how languages originated. One is called Bhava theory. How language is originated. Because you hear the sounds in nature and attach some expressions to that. And that's how one communicates. Even today, in every language, we use certain expressions. In Tamil, we say, Kalagalan Sirikiram. That Kalagala is not language, it is an expression. Like that, in every language, we have certain bhavau, either from animal sounds, or from the sounds of nature, or the natural sounds humans' voice box creates. Maybe when they went hunting, they had to grunt in the effort. Wherever they put in effort, they had to grunt. That itself became a word. Even today, you see this in other animals. They also only make sounds. I don't think there is a lipi for them. There's a very interesting word even to express that called onomatopoeia. That itself is a very funny sounding word. Onomatopoeia. But there's a lot of these theories how language started. Sanskritam, even today, while you do have written script, and fortunately, what Sanskritam did was adopt the Devanagari script and made what changes are necessary to make sure that what is written is exactly the way you pronounce it. So when somebody reads a shloka in Sanskritam, when somebody reads a mantra in Sanskritam, it should be exactly correct. There's also a reason for this. Like in any other language, if you mispronounce, you can actually be saying something different from what you intended to say. And the hearer will interpret in his own, her own way, because he hears something different from what you intended. There is a story about Kathopanishad also, no? How he, when he was praying for something, he prayed, used some wrong pronunciation, and everything went wrong. The Gayatri Mantra is another example that's often used. Bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yona prachodayat. The last word is naha prachodayat. Na with a visarga and prachodayat, which is pronounced as nah prachodayat. Meaning, give us, make us take the right decisions. But if we don't pronounce it correctly, na prachodayat, one says, then the meaning is diametrically opposite. That is why it is said that all Vedic mantras had to be pronounced very correctly. The swaras, the way, the distinction between nakara and nakara. Like in many Indian languages, we do not have a distinction between many Indian and other languages. Ka, kha, gha, gha. There are 4 different sounds produced from 4 different places in the sound box. And that's scientifically written down by Muni Panini. Where does the sound get produced? And that makes a difference to sound. Similarly, sounds difference between Alpa Prana and Mahaprana, Kha and Gha, the and the. That's why you're able to then pronounce it exactly as it's pronounced. But in practice, what happens? You hear the same mantra being chanted, let us say in Punjab, and the same mantra being chanted, let us say in Maharashtra or in Karnataka. You will find that they don't sound the same. Although the basics are the same, that is because how the tongue has got used to that particular language. Not because of Sanskritam as a language, but because the one who is chanting is unaware of Sanskritam, reads it in his own language, which has its own limitations, which has its own formation of the sound in the tongue, and therefore pronounces it in his own fashion. I've heard non-Indians pronounce these mantras. Many of them have made tremendous efforts to make sure that they pronounce correctly, and whatever their own original sound production techniques were there are overcome. Those limitations are overcome. But it's not very easy. Even speaking English, each one of us has his or her own specific accent. If you go to Punjab, you say player and mayer, or pleasure and measure. And what we pronounce also is very different from the way Englishmen pronounce the same words. I remember when I was in England many years ago, I called up a friend of mine called David Peacock. His son picked up the phone at home. Those days we used to be landline phones. And I said, can I speak to David? And I think I have very little accent in my English speech. The guy calls his dad and says, Dad, somebody wants to speak to you. He speaks funny. I said to him, I sounded funny because I'm not following the way they speak. in Sanskrit, one of the reasons why I want us to hear this entire Upanishad every day in the class, and we can practice later, is so that we get the pronunciation correct. When we read the Bashyam together, we will do that as we move along. We will make an effort to see that we pronounce them correctly. We will also make an effort to help those who don't know understand how the words are broken. Sanskritam, not Sanskrit. Sanskritam. Sanskritam itself has a very good meaning. Sanskrit is a anglicized version of it. It's like now there's debate going on, no? Why do you call my country India? This is not India. This is Hindustan or Bharat. They conquer, they came, they'll name it the way they want to name it. They had all the power to do it. Sanskritam. Samyak Kritam. A language that has been very well done, very well made. Has this science behind it where words can combine. Sometimes simply combine two words and written as one word. Sometimes two words are combined, and at the junction where the combination takes place, there are some variations, some rules they follow for those variations. This is there in other languages also, but they may not have as elaborate rules as Sanskritam has. The other day only somebody was telling me that in Tamil also there is the same kind of sandhi. How the last letter of one word changes depending upon what follows the next word. Because sandhi. And there are very clear and elaborately written down rules for that. We will not go into the rules, but we will understand how it's written. It's very easy because it's very intuitive. Sanskritam is a highly intuitive language because it's a oral-based language. In fact, even today, I can break a big combination of words and tell you what the breakup is. But if you ask me, what is the rule by which you break it down, I might have difficulties. Even after studying for so many years. So sandhi is one. Then you have samasa, which is also another combination of words. And there are various types of samasa, all of which we will see. So when Shankaracharya writes the Bhashyam, he will sometimes break the samasa and say how that breaks up. Sometimes he will not say it. If he doesn't say it, we will try and look at it ourselves. There are many types of samasas. One of the most common examples you will see in grammar is pitambara. Pita is yellow. And ambara, ambara means covering. Sky is also called ambara. So pitambara, but the word pitambara will be he who wears yellow. And we know what is pitambara. In language, we know pitambara is the name for Krishna. It is neither pita nor ambara. It is neither represents yellow nor represents dress. But the one who wears the yellow dress, that person, it represents Lord Krishna. Like that, you will have sometimes very complex combinations of words. When we study the Bhashyam, we will look at those wherever Acharya has helped by breaking it down, we will look at it. If we have not broken it down, we will try and do it ourselves. With that broad introduction to Vedanta, to Upanishads, to what we're trying to do, where we're trying to get with all this, in the next class, we will start with the actual Bashyam that Shankaracharya has written, starting with the Dhyana Shlokam. We chant this Dhyana Shlokam everywhere. We will look at the meaning of the Dhyana Shlokam. This belongs to this particular Shukla Yajurveda. Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Saha Viryam Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vaditamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.